On April 17, 2026, President Donald Trump posted a directive on Truth Social that on its surface seemed to settle a decades-old argument. I am ordering all federal agencies, including the CIA, Pentagon, and FBI, to release all records related to UFOs and UAPs. The American people deserve the truth. No more hiding. Full transparency, now. Within hours, the post had been shared millions of times. Cable news ran split screens, believers celebrating, skeptics rolling their eyes, and former intelligence officials choosing their words very carefully. But a Truth Social post is not an executive order. It carries no legal mechanism for enforcement. It sets no timeline. It names no custodian of compliance. And within the national security bureaucracy, that distinction matters enormously. So the question became immediate. Was this a genuine policy directive or a performative gesture designed to look like action while the machinery of secrecy continued to turn? The answer, months later, is both. To understand what Trump's directive means, you have to understand what led to it. The modern disclosure movement has a clear lineage. December 2017, the New York Times reveals the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. 2020, the UAP Task Force is formally established. July 2023, whistleblower. David Grusch testifies under oath before Congress that the U.S. government possesses non-human craft and biologics, and that programs retrieving them have been hidden from congressional oversight for decades. The 2024 National Defense Authorization Act included a diluted version of Senator Chuck Schumer's UAP Disclosure Act, which originally would have established an eminent domain framework for recovering classified materials from private contractors. That provision was gutted under intense lobbying pressure, reportedly from aerospace and defense firms. By early 2026, frustration had reached a boiling point. Representatives Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna, and Senate allies like Mike Rounds were publicly accusing elements of the intelligence community of stonewalling lawful oversight. The Immaculate Constellation program, first referenced in a leaked Inspector General complaint in late 2025, suggested a parallel UAP tracking system operating outside normal reporting chains. Trump's post landed in this exact pressure cooker. In the weeks following the April directive, several agencies did release materials, though the scope varied wildly. The Defense Intelligence Agency published approximately 1,500 pages of documents related to the Advanced Aerospace Weapon System Applications Program, AWSAP, the broader predecessor to AATIP. Many of these had been partially released through prior FOIA litigation, but new batches included technical studies on exotic propulsion, metamaterials analysis, and biological effects on personnel who encountered UAP at close range. Several reports referenced injuries consistent with directed energy exposure, burns, neurological symptoms, and in at least 2 cases, apparent radiation signatures with no conventional explanation. The National Reconnaissance Office declassified a set of satellite imagery analyses from the early 2000s, though these were so heavily redacted that analysts described them as more black ink than content. The Department of Energy, which oversees nuclear weapons sites, locations with an unusually high concentration of UAP reports dating back to the 1940s, released a modest batch of incident reports from facilities in New Mexico and Tennessee. These confirmed what researchers had long alleged. UAP incursions over sensitive nuclear installations were taken seriously at the highest levels, even as public-facing officials dismissed the phenomenon. But here's the critical gap. Nothing released so far touches the core allegations: the crash retrieval programs, the reverse engineering efforts, or the existence of non-human biologics. The CIA's response to the directive was, by most accounts, a masterclass in bureaucratic deflection. According to reporting by Liberation Times and corroborated by statements from congressional staffers, the agency acknowledged the president's public statement but noted internally that no formal executive order had been transmitted through proper National Security Council channels. Without that, CIA legal counsel reportedly advised that existing classification authorities, particularly those under Executive Order 13526 and the Atomic Energy Act of 1954, took precedence. This is a crucial legal nuance. The Atomic Energy Act creates a classification regime that operates parallel to, and in some interpretations above, standard executive classification authority. Documents classified as restricted data under the AEA cannot be declassified by presidential order alone without coordination through the Department of Energy and, in practice, the consent of the agencies that originated the classification. If, and this remains a significant if, the most sensitive UAP materials are protected under AEA provisions, then Trump's Truth Social directive doesn't just lack enforcement power. It may lack legal authority over the very documents the public most wants to see. The NSA, for its part, has remained almost entirely silent. Perhaps the most significant barrier to disclosure isn't governmental, it's corporate. Multiple sources, including testimony from David Grusch and statements by former Senate Majority Leader Schumer, have pointed to private defense contractors as the custodians of the most sensitive UAP-related materials and programs. The logic, allegedly, was strategic. By housing retrieval and reverse engineering programs within private entities, they could be shielded from congressional oversight mechanisms like the Gang of 8 briefings that apply to government programs. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and several other firms named in various allegations have uniformly denied involvement in any such programs. But a presidential social media post has no subpoena power over private corporations. Even the diluted UAP provisions passed in the 2024 NDAA lack teeth to compel private sector disclosure without additional legislation. Representative Luna stated in a March 2026 press conference, "We can order agencies to open their filing cabinets all day long. But if the most important files were moved to a Lockheed vault in Palmdale 30 years ago, we're ordering an empty room to reveal its secrets." This is the architectural problem at the heart of disclosure. The secrecy infrastructure was apparently designed to survive exactly this kind of political pressure. Despite the bureaucratic resistance, the human element continues to crack the wall. By mid-2026, the Intelligence Community Inspector General had reportedly received over 40 additional complaints from individuals claiming first-hand knowledge of UAP-related programs, up from the handful known in 2023. Not all of these have been deemed credible, but according to sources familiar with the process, a significant number have been referred for further investigation. Several of these whistleblowers have allegedly provided testimony to the Joint Senate Intelligence and Armed Services Committee staff in closed sessions. The content of these briefings remains classified, but Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who chairs the relevant subcommittee, made a notable public statement in May 2026. "What I've heard in classified settings does not match what the American public is being told. That gap is not acceptable, and it is not sustainable." This tracks with a pattern that insiders have described for years. Elected officials who enter classified briefings skeptical and emerge visibly shaken, yet legally unable to discuss what they've learned. The whistleblowers are, in many respects, more consequential than the presidential directive. They provide names, locations, program designators, and contract numbers. They are the map. The directive, at best, is the key. And so far, it's been tried in the wrong lock. Trump is not the first president to push, or appear to push, for UFO transparency. In 1993, the Rockefeller Initiative saw billionaire Lawrence Rockefeller lobby the Clinton White House directly for UFO disclosure. Declassified memos show Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, John Podesta, was sympathetic. Nothing substantive was released. President Obama, when asked directly about UFOs in 2021, said, "There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are." He then added with a careful smile, "We can't explain how they moved." Even presidents, it appears, are briefed selectively. Multiple former officials have suggested that the deepest UAP programs operate under special access program compartments so restricted that even a sitting president may not be read in without specific request. And even then, access is not guaranteed. If this is true, Trump's directive may reflect genuine frustration as much as political strategy. It is entirely possible that the President of the United States has been told no by his own bureaucracy on this subject and chose to take the fight public. The directive has not failed, but it has not succeeded either. It exists in a liminal space, generating pressure without delivering product. What matters now is what follows. The legislative path remains the most viable route to genuine disclosure. A revised UAP Disclosure Act, informally called UAPDA 2.0, is reportedly being drafted for inclusion in the fiscal year 2027 NDAA. This version, according to congressional sources, includes subpoena authority over private contractors, whistleblower protection enhancements, and a review board modeled on the JFK Assassination Records Review Board. The parallel track is judicial. Several FOIA lawsuits are advancing through federal courts, and at least one, filed by transparency organization The Black Vault, directly challenges the CIA's claim that it has released all responsive UAP records. And then there is the court of public attention. Polling from Gallup in early 2026 showed that 68% of Americans believe the government is withholding information about UAP. That number has doubled since 2019. Public pressure is a slow-moving force, but it is relentless. The real question was never whether a president could order disclosure on social media. It was whether any single act of political will can overcome an infrastructure of secrecy built over 80 years, spanning multiple agencies, private corporations, allied foreign governments, and classification regimes designed specifically to resist exactly this kind of moment. The April 2026 directive revealed something important. Not about UFOs, but about power. It showed where the walls are. It showed which agencies comply and which defer, delay, and deflect. It mapped the architecture of resistance in real time. That map may prove more valuable than any single document release. Because now, we know where to dig. The files exist. The question is whether the locks that guard them answer to the president, to Congress, to the courts, or to no one at all.